Joe is a community leader for a company that hosts month-long retreats worldwide. And so these retreats allow digital nomads, remote professionals to do their jobs while living abroad in unique destinations. So prior to his current role, Joe also worked as a program manager at Uncharted, a social impact accelerator, and successfully managed projects in partnership with Facebook, Chipotle, and more. So ultimately impacting millions of Americans and talk about business for a better world, which is our mission here in the College Business. So Joe, thanks for joining in. I'm so glad we could catch you when you're back here in the States and not romping across some corner of the world. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. When you say it, it sounds a lot more impressive than when I say it. So I appreciate the synopsis.
Well, we can talk to you for hours. We do only have 20 minutes today. Just a reminder, this session is recorded, so students can access this as a podcast later on within Handshake, the Handshake resource card for alumni chats. So Joe, let's go ahead and get started. We will save 20 minutes for a conversation, 10 minutes for live audience questions at the end. So let's start with what you do. What do you do now? And then I want to hear about how you got there.
Amazing. Okay. Yeah, you teed it up really well. I am currently a host for a digital nomad community. And so basically what I do is I travel to these destinations for these 4 to 6 week long retreats that are really focused on giving people the ability to do their remote jobs remotely in like groups. So that way it's not so like lonesome. So anyone who just has the ability to do their jobs from cool destinations, this company's value proposition is like, well, why don't you do it in a communal setting with an organization that like assures internet and essentially just like cool people to fill the rest of the time in. So it's very much like a work first, enjoy the destination second, since it is sort of centered in you getting your work done.
That's amazing. How does one even like come across this? Like, how does that work? Like, what does that look like a typical day within the group that you host?
Yeah, I am still learning how people come to the organization. I heard about the organization a long time ago when I was wrapping up my job at Uncharted, which was this nonprofit social impact accelerator. And I knew in that job, I could not really be a remote professional. That job was sort of like location based a lot of the time. So as someone who loved to travel, I was sort of like looking at opportunities about, if I did have a job where I could go anywhere, what could I do with that? And I just came across this organization, and it just so happened they were hiring as I was leaving my nonprofit job, and it turned out to be a pretty good fit. But it's really incredible to see, I think, especially now with how many industries and how many companies are really allowing and encouraging and seeing really beneficial outcomes from allowing their employees to work remote. So I expect this to be like an increasingly popular thing to do.
Yeah, I mean, yes, I would like to join.
You can. I get a +1. Anybody who's listening, I get a +1. And no, people usually don't take me up on it. So.
How does that work? So they can just come and join you remotely and do their job, or I don't know if you could get away with it, students for classes being away.
Yeah. Yeah, you do have to like get accepted. The organization does vet everybody. So it's not like you can't just like pay to come on. You have to like essentially interview to join. But it's a retention strategy for me as an employee of like, we believe you will stay in this role longer if you can like bring some of your friends or partners or things along. So yeah.
What a perk. Talk about benefits for a company.
I don't get healthcare. I'll be honest. I don't get healthcare. I don't get paid a lot, but I can bring a friend.
Hey, that, and whatever works. So how did you get to where you are? You were the vice president of the Dean Student Leadership Council here in the College of Business not too many years ago. You were modeling in Sri Lanka, then our social impact accelerator, to now doing what you do. Like, how did you get there?
Yeah, as you relate, it doesn't really sound like there's an exact through line. And I think I was sort of disillusioned by the idea of like the corporate ladder and, the offers and the opportunities that were directly in front of me. I wasn't like excited about. I have this like personal philosophy that like, if it's not a hell yes, it's a hell no. And so even though I had done, you know, everything I was really supposed to in the College of Business, and I loved all my opportunities there, I just didn't see anything immediately in front of me. And because I knew I needed to do something a little bit drastic before sort of finding my way into opportunities like the nonprofit accelerator. So I just sort of like went for it. And instead of getting like a quote unquote real job, I worked at a surf and yoga retreat in Sri Lanka. And then that sort of allowed me to do these other things. So I think I look for opportunities that make me a little uncomfortable and just sort of put me in an environment where you have to like look and evaluate for new things. And then I'm surprised at what things I sort of can finagle my way into.
Always impressive. Joe has always been this way. I feel like even back here in his days in the College of Business, it's always been a Joe thing for somehow. So you clearly chose an alternative route, and after graduation, you like hoofed it across the world. Not the typical get recruited out of a career fair type of thing. What do you recommend to students who might want to break out of that suit and tie mold and take a route similar to yours? Do you have any advice?
Yeah, I think, well, first, like I still go to the career fairs. That's like, I still think, you know, like you need as much information and data about like what sounds cool to you, what is exciting. So, you know, I was meeting with like my career counselor, my undergraduate programs counselor. Like I was sort of just like a little intense about just trying to understand like what is available to me, so that these like directions can sort of materialize. And also just like be aware of the trade-offs. I think I was in a position where I could, after graduation, move back home with my parents, sort of like spend a few months figuring out what's next before making this like big leap. And I just know that that's not available to everybody. And so I guess like non-competitive career management, like never look outward and see what your friends are doing. For anyone who's listening, there is a moment during your senior year where all of your like accounting and finance friends start getting job offers. And it feels like you need to get a job offer to be like safe and secure, and like, you know, just take it slow, don't look outward, and I guess just do what you want. I know this is like so obnoxious, but like leap and the net will catch you. If you want to be risky, be a little bit risky, and you can also be very intentional about it. There's like online resources, lean on the CMC. And I guess if I'm supposed to give like an actual tangible piece of advice, like if you want to do something abroad and sort of get really uncomfortable, find like a part-time remote job. There's tons of these at the moment, and then leap somewhere and then kind of figure out next steps. You don't need to have the whole picture figured out before you do something.
Great advice. I specifically remember that same exact feeling. Senior year, I was sitting in my capstone class and I had my finance friends in front of me with their Goldman offers. And I was like, that is just not me. I don't know what. And here we are.
I know. And look, and you've landed an incredible job, like perfect for you.
I do love it. It's great. I just love the College of Business and I've never left. So love the CMC, great resources, like you mentioned. But so we also have a ton of students interested in international business. Like it's even a concentration now. It wasn't when we were students. You can double concentrate in it now. What had you always known you wanted to work internationally, or did this just kind of cultivate towards your end of your senior year?
I think I always had the desire for it, but it just sort of, I didn't really understand what does that look like. Because it can look so differently. Like my job right now, I didn't even know this existed. And so there just wasn't a ton of things in front of me that like informed what working internationally could be. And it's cool now that I'm exposed to hundreds of people in these retreats that like anyone from like doctors to graphic designers to all sorts of like product managers and stuff, there is avenues for it. So I'm lucky now to see it, but I didn't really know what that looked like. But I think my desire to work internationally was really sort of pushed forward by studying abroad. I think if if anyone here is like thinking about studying abroad, just like do it as early as you can. I wish I had done it like my sophomore year. I did it my second semester of junior year, absolutely loved it. And I think that experience really taught me like how exciting sort of the world can be, while also, you know, like being a productive member of society, like going to a school and like that. So it was just like a very exciting time, and I just wanted more of it.
Love it. I specifically remember those kind of experiences as well. Like that can just spark unknown avenues. And I feel like this digital nomad era has really taken off, like with people being able to work remote. That's so cool. I love what you do.
And I remember because we had the international business certificate,
Yes.
and it wasn't a ton of classes. I don't know what the concentration looks like, but if you can fit it into your like undergrad plan, do it. Because I just remember the classes that were available during the certificate were like very popular. People really enjoyed it, really like creative coursework.
Yeah. It's a great program. Come into the CMC or the undergrad program advising office, definitely willing to talk about all things as well. But we are already running out of time somehow, about halfway through here. But Joe, can you talk to us about living and working internationally? Like what challenges, what excites you? Tell us about that.
Yeah, let me just like rapid fire. There's so many. I'll start with the challenges. I think no longer really having your friends and family, like your tried and true people around you, is tough. There's things like not knowing what grocery stores to go to and like what you can cook for yourself and like where's your gym now and stuff. This is, I guess, specifically for me as someone who moves every month or so, every month I'm like sort of exhausted by like, how do I just get up and running again? And then like living in places where like English isn't as common for someone who doesn't speak a second language, and also where Western culture isn't the norm as someone who's like very Americana a lot of the times, is a challenge. But then I guess the pros and the exciting things about that is that like, I get to, instead of like having my friends and family around, I get to meet people who I would never otherwise have interacted with. And I get to like truly love and adore them. I get like, going to the grocery store is like an adventure now. Like that's fun. Like sometimes it's exhausting, but at the end of the day, like, oh, my day-to-day tasks are an adventure. And I guess to flip that last point, like I'm living in a place where English isn't the language and Western culture isn't the norm. So I guess I'm like, my ideas of the world are challenged. I'm like constantly humbled. And I sort of realign like what I think is like really valuable and important.
I love it. Go, Joe. So the mission of the College of Business here is business for a better world. What does that statement mean to you in the realm of what you're doing and what you have done? Can you touch on that?
Yeah, I think I'm so grateful to the College of Business for so many reasons, but one was really the fact that this was such a like touchstone of the curriculum. Is like, I guess when I was 18 and I was going into business, I just sort of just assumed like, all right, I'll join because like, I guess I kind of want to make money, which hilarious has not happened. Like I am 29 at my parents' house still, but like, I feel like I've had a very fruitful, loving career.
Yes.
But I think I was just constantly surprised at like, the world has so many problems, and problems that need to be solved are like innovative, creative solutions that can be profitable. I think my whole work at Uncharted, which was the nonprofit accelerator, was how do we create nonprofits that don't rely on grants and like high net worth individuals to fund them? Like, how can these nonprofits actually survive on products and services that actually do make a huge difference in the world? And that was just like one of the most exciting, fulfilling things to like bear witness to. And it's to the point where like, I don't foresee myself jumping back into like quote unquote real job. Like my job right now is very, very real, but it is ludicrous. But I know one day I will need to like seek another more professional avenue, but I don't think I'll ever go back to something that isn't really rooted in some sort of like social impact good.
I love it. And you're traveling all over the world and meeting all these people. what a concept. Like, I feel like that wasn't even something that I was thinking about when we were in school. Like,
Yeah.
the world is the oyster, and there are so many cool opportunities these days.
I think that's one of the things I wish I knew was
Yeah.
just like how much is out there, and like to no one's fault. Like it's not your fault, it's not your parents' fault, it's not like the even CSU's fault, and like what's available to you. There's so much out there that is really exciting, and you just have to be like willing to sort of dig through and find these new ways of living. I don't know.
I agree. I'm like, there's so many, everybody's getting so many emails. There's so many people to connect with, and just taking the time to do it and seeing what happens of that is just so exciting to me.
Yeah.
So you may have touched on it a little bit, but thinking back to your time here at CSU, did anything you do here, courseworks, internships, clubs, orgs, professors, still impact or affect what you're doing today? So like for me, it was the Business 300 writing course, Teresa Werdemont, the toughest class, hardest, most critiqued, but like I use it every single day. It's very important class. Stick with it, everybody that's in it.
It's so funny how everyone has that opinion on that class. Is like, it's exhausted them, and then they're so grateful for it.
So grateful. So for you, what is there anything that sticks out or stands out?
I really did enjoy like my practicums and capstone classes towards the end of my degree. I thought those were very well taught. I remember just like my marketing practicum with Dr. Kelly Martin was just truly life-changing. And she's like someone who I like will still sort of like email updates to, because I just like love keeping in contact with her. What else? I think what really stands out in my head is the extracurriculars. I think that is what really set me up for success, just in the ability to like, the more people you understand, the better you understand people. And this is like the coolest way to get involved into like really meaningful ways. Like DSLC was just so important to me, and like my friends that I made in DSLC, yourself included, like still mean the world to me. And like just the ability to like sort of have peers and a team working on like meaningful projects like that is indicative of what I want the rest of my life to look like. So it was a great like springboard for that. And then also the Global Business Network, and just exposure to international student populations, and just getting to be around them and interact with them. And that is also what I want the rest of my career to look like too. So those two extracurriculars really, and like those clubs really stood out. And then I guess one more, I was employed at the College of Business, which meant I got to like, I worked at the undergraduate programs office, and I just got to like see and hear so many awesome things, whether it's the clubs or like what was going on at the CMC. So just like embedding yourself in the environments that you need to like learn from is cannot be overstated.
Super great advice. There's tons of positions hiring throughout the College of Business. So students, if you're looking for anything, come let us know. Also, those clubs are both super active still, getting involved and making those connections, and you'll make great friends like Joe as well.
Yeah.
So I want to leave time here for any live audience questions. So if anybody has questions, feel free to pop them in the chat, or go ahead and unmute yourself and introduce yourself to Joe. But while you're thinking of those, Joe, I just want to touch on this real quick because I think it's super unique. You are a marketing major, and you have one of the most creative, fun, personal brands I've ever seen. Social media is on point. Your LinkedIn cover photo is a goldfish, like literally the snack goldfish, like the link is Shark Week. Like, can you talk about the importance of personal branding to you and how you created one for yourself?
Oh,
because I think that stands out. I love it.
I think my approach to personal branding was like a real resistance to this like sanitary professional brand that like we're often told to do. Like usually like explicit, like your photos should look like this, and like keywords should look like this. And like, yes, you need to like put your best foot forward. But as someone who like worked very, very hard in school, I didn't want to like have to like downsize my personality so people would respect the work part. I was like, you get both or you get none. And so I guess like my personal brand, I've never really considered it as such, but it just became like, I want opportunities that like my whole self, and I will only really be happy in opportunities where my whole self gets to like be respected and appreciated. And I'm sure I've lost some things I've went for because of like my a little bit like kookiness. But at the end of the day, like I've landed the jobs that like really were important to me, and my like me as a personality was like very appreciated in those spaces. So I guess like my recommendation is like whoever you are, don't sanitize yourself for opportunities, because the best ones will want you and all your weirdness.
I love it. Great advice. I know I just wanted to touch on that real quick because I think it's truly important as well. So there is one that came through the chat here, a question: where have you lived and worked abroad? This could be an hour-long question probably.
Yeah. This is sort of tough because as someone who has to like move every month, I feel weird claiming like I've lived in those places. Like I've just been like a long time visitor. I did spend 2 years in Sri Lanka, and so I will confidently say I lived there. And then when I was working at Uncharted, I spent 3 months in Cape Town, South Africa. So I count that. But the last year and a half, I think I've lived in like 9 or 10 countries, and I won't like list them all off, but just truly all over the world. And it's been a blast. Oh yes, please list them. Oh God, okay. It was
Ecuador?
Italy, Mexico, Costa Rica, Spain, Mauritius, Ecuador, South Africa. Oh God, I'm missing some. A few more, I'm sorry.
Quite the list. And for an extended amount of time, you know, like a month, that's a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Are there any other live audience questions while we have Joe here on the line?
Joe, I like what you said earlier about if it's not a hell yes, it's a hell no. What made your position since graduating a hell yes in your mind?
Ooh, yeah, a great question. So like just being completely honest and transparent, like this job is so much fun, but it is more of like a cheap sabbatical than a real like career advancing position. My 3 years in the nonprofit industry was incredible, and I worked for like the most amazing company, and I just felt like I really got to make a difference. But nonprofit startup is a very tiring sort of environment to play in, and then when you add the pandemic into that as well, truly burnt out is just sort of like a natural thing in my position. And so this position was a hell yes, because it sort of enabled me to do the things I love, which is like travel and meet new, wonderful, exciting people I wouldn't have otherwise met. And then they would pay for me to do it. So basically, like, I'm not earning a lot of money, but I am getting free flights to these destinations with some job responsibilities that I feel like 80% of my job is things that I would do for free. It's like the 20% that's like the admin and like the back end stuff that's kind of the job, but the sort of like gathering of people, it just, that all became like a hell yes for me. And so I joined this job a year and a half ago, thinking it was going to be like a year before finding out what's next. And I'm sort of just keeping going with it.
That's awesome. Thank you.
I was gonna say, so you have a timeline, you know, you're not on that upward corporate ladder. Like what is next? What do you think?
I don't know. It's a great question, and something I felt like a little uneasy about, because when I left, I do these like 3 to 4 month stints before we're supposed to actually take a break, because it is sort of a draining job before we take like 1 month off before going out again. And when I left in August, I sort of told myself that by December, we would have like a little bit of a plan. And here we are in December, and that plan is nowhere to be found. And so there's a little bit of uneasiness around this, but I guess I'm going to tell you all, I've had that feeling 400 times in my life since graduating, and like it truly does always work out. So I'm very much just trusting and like not letting that trust sort of prevent intentionality. Like I am starting to like have conversations with people and see what is out there for me, but I don't think I'm going to jump out of this role quite yet.
Yeah, you're living your best life. And you know, whenever you're ready to change, you know, College of Business majors get free career services for life through the Career Management Center. So come on back home whenever you need to.
I know I might just, I kind of want to just pop in and say hi and get some popcorn.
We still have snacks. We have packages of popcorn now. Individually wrapped snacks. We have the Cheez-Its and all the other goods. So come
We'll
on
take
by,
'em.
students as well. Are there any other final questions from our audience here today? Well, we have Joe. We have one in the chat. Favorite place you have lived or worked?
Oof.
That's a good question.
Like, I guess like on the contrary to all of this, like I really loved working in Denver, Colorado. That was an incredible, like, you know, sometimes it takes going out and seeing everything to realize how good you have it where you were. So I will say like being a young professional in Denver is really, really lovely. But I guess in a more exciting sense, my time in Sri Lanka, where I moved there for what was supposed to be 3 months, turned out to be 2 years. And that was just the most, like, I guess, gut-wrenching, exciting, weird, fun time of my life. And that little island nation means a lot to me now.
No. Gotta love Denver, Colorado, even on a snow day.
I know. Yeah, this is my first snow in a while. Now I gotta go shovel for my parents.
Welcome home. You gotta have somewhere to come back for between your month-long adventures.
Yeah.
All right. Well, if there are any other questions, feel free to unmute yourself or pop them in the chat. But so I just want to say thank you for joining us here today and talking with our current students and being recorded for our future ones to listen to as well, aiming to inspire our current students with just fun alumni stories of what you can do and breaking out of the mold, and just very grateful for you and your friendship. So thanks for being.
Thank you. And like, you are such an asset. Please, everybody should like be friends with Patty, because your life is much, much better as her friend.
Well, I appreciate that. We love meeting new students. So come on to the Career Management Center, even if just getting a snack, we'd love to see you. So thank you all for being here, and the recording will be up tomorrow. So keep an eye out for it.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, guys.